So we've actually been reading these at night as like a bedtime story, which is pretty cool.
With our boys, obviously the 5-year-old is really the only one that's like...
Yeah, he's the only one really aware.
But he does pass out pretty quick.
Yeah. Yeah, they really kind of started for him because he wanted Star Wars bedtime stories. And we did that a while ago, but I think it was maybe too intense, like the different books and stuff that I was choosing. But anyway, it's actually been really cool to go through it. And so maybe a parent hack, that's a great way to actually like read through the books in a very...
it's been awesome.
Yeah, very timely fashion. But yeah, well, let's talk about the Jedi Apprentice series. So if you don't know, this is pre-Disney. This is a young readers, maybe could be considered like young adult readers series. I think there's like 20 books in this series. They started in 99 and they were getting cranked out in the 90s. Like I think the first 4 came out in 1999.
Oh wow.
So yeah, they came out pretty quickly. The first one has a different author, as Dave Wolverton, I think is that his last name. But anyway, and then it's Jude Watson. She wrote all the other ones, but they're fantastic. They really are, and it focuses pre-Phantom Menace on Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan.
A young Obi-Wan.
Yeah. Before he's even a Padawan. And so, let's get into it. You've been actually the one doing like the reading, the read alouds, right? Which is really cool.
Yeah.
And I have notes because we're parents of 3, and so it was like it's bedtime when we're reading through these. So like I'm like I need to keep to some notes to keep things straight.
Well, and they all start to mesh together, and it's like,
they do.
Did this happen in?
Yeah, and we're going through them pretty quick, but today we're just going to talk about a couple of them. So when we're looking at this first one here, when we are looking at the Rising Force, essentially this is before Obi-Wan is accepted as Qui-Gon's Padawan.
I think he's still 12, so he's not even 13 yet.
Yeah, and so what's interesting about this is that you get into like how Padawans are chosen. This like that selection process, and essentially he's not chosen.
Poor Obi-Wan.
Yeah, and you have the whole, God, what is it Bruck? What was that guy's name?
Well, I just make up all the pronunciations.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Whatever that guy's name. There's this other Padawan who's he's maybe a little better than Obi-Wan in terms of like some of the actual skills, but he's kind of a jerk.
Yes.
And he just wants to sabotage Obi-Wan, essentially. And so him and Obi-Wan get in some tussles and they get in some fights. Anyway, Obi-Wan isn't chosen as a Padawan. He really wants to be Qui-Gon's Padawan, but
Qui-Gon chooses no one when he visits.
Yeah, that was interesting because I don't know, it just plays into the allure and mystery, I guess, of the fact that he can just say like, no, I'm not going to pick a Padawan. I don't know enough to know if that's like par for the course with the Jedi or not, but nonetheless, Obi-Wan gets reassigned to the Agriculture Corps, the Agro Corps. Basically, they're not failed Padawans, but they kind of are failed Padawans in a sense where it's like they couldn't go through and get picked. So then they go and they serve in all these different ways.
Right.
And basically, Obi-Wan, when they're traveling, they get basically pirates attack. Actually, sorry, let me back up. Qui-Gon is going to Bandamere, this planet, and Yoda is sending Obi-Wan to Bandamere. And Qui-Gon and Yoda are talking, and Yoda's basically like, hey, trust the Force.
Right.
Kind of a thing, when it's like, like, okay, we know obviously because of Phantom Menace that they end up together, but it's like, okay, I'm seeing this play out. It's pretty cool. And Yeah, so then there's an emergency crash on this undeveloped planet on their way to Bandamere, and then this is where you just have all of this kind of crazy stuff that's happening there, and the whole book basically ends with, I think this is one where he calls him Padawan, doesn't he? At the end of this one, he doesn't choose him as Padawan, or is that the next one?
He chooses him in the next, I believe, at the end of the next one.
Yeah, but they still aren't together yet. But what's really cool about this, at the very end, you hear about Xanatos.
Mm-hmm.
So you hear about Qui-Gon's failed Padawan from before, his fallen Padawan. So it introduces that whole dynamic, of like, fallen Padawan, and that's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
But that I'm brushing over some points, but why don't you fill in any plot points that I missed? And then you've been loving the series, so talk to us about that.
Well, like I said, it's hard for me to fill in plot points because I mix them all together.
Sure.
So specifically about this one. But overall, like with the series and even the first book, so the Rising Force of the series was so enjoyable. Like I couldn't put it down. I had to because my son fell asleep, but I didn't want to put it down. And it's just super cool to see Obi-Wan as a young boy, 12. He gets to 13, I think, in the second book. I think he turns 13. But to see him as a 12-year-old and kind of see, he struggles with anger and how Bra, whatever that guy's name is.
Yeah, I don't know. The jerk.
How he's trying to, antagonize him and play off that so that Obi-Wan doesn't get chosen. And then to see, because when we meet Obi-Wan in Phantom Menace, he's pretty, he's still young, but he's very mature. He's pretty calm. He's cool. He's collected. Mm-hmm. And then, so then when I'm reading this, I'm like, wow, like how far he's come. But then, like we were talking about earlier, it gives us insight to then how he was with Anakin. Probably because he's like, man, I've kind of been here, letting your emotions control you and having to overcome that and get through that. So I really like thinking, while I'm reading, thinking about where he is now, but also where he ends up in in the original trilogy. Then he's this wise, Jedi master, and I just really like Obi-Wan's arc, and then obviously Qui-Gon's as well, to even know that how he was so hesitant to take on Obi-Wan, because by the time we see him in Phantom Menace, they seem pretty close and connected. So it's crazy obviously there's always a story before, but it's really cool to get that background.
Yeah, and I did think it was really interesting too. Yeah, how it's crazy is not the right word, but I don't know, just like youthful and kind of impulsive, I guess Obi-Wan is. But
he sounds like a normal kid.
Yeah, I mean, he's 12 years old.
Right.
And in the next, I think it is in the next one where it's his birthday, and he wants Qui-Gon to know it's his birthday and stuff, and it's
his internal dialogue.
Yeah. But I definitely, you see, when you get to the Phantom Menace and you have the dialogue between, just right off the bat, right on when they're going to talk to the Trade Federation and all this, just right off the bat, you have Qui-Gon essentially telling him my paraphrase, slow, you need to slow down, you need to center yourself on the moment. And this book kind of it feels like it's fleshing that out and making that feel like a really normal progression, where it's that makes so much sense, because you get to see him on these different adventures,
right?
And you definitely see that. But what's cool is you definitely are seeing Obi-Wan is qualified to be a Padawan. That's for sure. Just the way he's willing to sacrifice him for others, and the way he wants to follow Qui-Gon and all of this. Even though he's supposed to be going to the Agri Corps or whatever, it's pretty cool to see that.
And we get introduced to Jemba in this one, right? Jemba.
Yeah,
the
yeah.
Hutt.
Or is that? Yeah, yep. That is this one because he's the
So on the transport
yes
shuttle thing when Obi-Wan's on his way to the Agra corpse and Jemba like beats him up, right?
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah, and it's definitely interesting too to see like Hutts in that kind of a dynamic too, you know, because
when I'm reading it, I'm picturing a large Hutt like Jabba, because I mean I know there's other Hutts, I've seen them in Clone Wars and stuff, but they're all kind of large. But then you were showing me pictures of these like muscular Hutts, and I just can't. My brain doesn't compute that. So then I'm like,
for real,
Obi-Wan's getting shoved around by this slug, this big old worm slug. But this guy Jembo is probably, I guess, not as fat as Jabba.
I mean, so we've been playing like tabletop RPGs. I've been reading the West End game stuff for a bit just because of the lore, but we actually started playing like a tabletop RPG for Star Wars. And that said, you can be a Hutt. Mm-hmm. And I'm looking at like the dexterity checks, like, okay, how quickly can they move in their strength and all this? And so like in universe lore, they're pretty strong and they can move pretty decently.
So it's just Jabba.
And I don't know if Jabba just chooses to not move,
to be rolled,
to be served, but
right.
Yeah, I mean, clearly they have to be moved around, but yeah, there are more like muscular ones, but
that was crazy to be like introduced to Hutts in a different way, and I guess see how agile they are. I mean, Obi-Wan was not like a full force Padawan Jedi, but like he's a force sensitive youngling who's been training in the temple and got beat up by a Hutt.
Yeah, and it's just crazy. And my screen's far away, so I can't exactly see your name. But you're saying, hey, I remember seeing that book cover back in the day. Yeah, and this is what's so crazy about these two is you have like, I'm thinking of like the Scholastic book fairs.
Those were so cool. I loved those.
If you're old enough to remember those, hopefully they still exist in public schools. I don't know.
I have no idea.
But that was like what was it, like a week before you would get the like booklet?
The booklet, yes.
And you would, just like Christmas, you'd like circle everything you want, go to your parents and be like, okay, here's what I want. And in the library, they set up that corner. Mm-hmm. And they had all these books and stuff, and these are Scholastic books. Mm-hmm. What I don't remember though, I don't remember like seeing these at my book fair. Like, I mean, I feel like I would have gotten them as a kid.
What, we were 9, 10?
Like 7, 8, 9, 10. It would have been like, yeah, later elementary school. But
yeah,
I don't remember seeing them. But yeah, it's just crazy. But yeah, Scholastic book fairs, these would have been there. You would have been able to just pull them right off the shelf, pick them up.
Dang.
What's cool is that they even have like iron-on things and posters, so you can like, I don't know, that'd be cool. Just be such an ugly shirt, but it'd be such a cool shirt to have this iron-on piece. So
it would be amazing.
Yeah, super super cool. Yeah, so essentially this is the first book that is showing. First out of 20 books, what's going to be like 5 years of Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon. And I don't know.
Does this timeline lead right up to Phantom Menace, like the last book?
I actually don't know if it does. I can check that really quick. We have the book for it, but I'm not sure. I would think it takes it, right to it because we're pretty close to it. But even though it's a young reader's book, a young adult book, right? I think maybe more young adult or like a youth novel is more appropriate. It doesn't read like it. Mm-mm. It reads really quickly. It does.
There's some like bigger words in there, like not just like common words.
And what's good is, I don't know if it's intentional, but it's at a reading level to where it can like stretch maybe like a late elementary or early teen vocabulary, so that's good on that side, like if you're interested in that. But the pacing is great. It's seriously good, and I know that these are highly regarded as well, and well-deserved highly regarded. They're just fantastic books. And what I like is that it's showing like long character growth, like it's showing long arcs, and it feels really true to George Lucas in that there's a lot of world building. It's heavy fantasy as well. It's not like hard sci-fi, like it doesn't feel out of place.
Right.
There's so many things where I'm just like, man, we're saying so many words and reading so many names and places.
Oh, I know.
I don't know what this is about. I don't know where these places are. Or so many alien species.
Right.
And
I'm trying to envision all these species too.
Yeah, and so this,
because we also get introduced to C. Tremba. I think that's how I read his name.
Yeah, that is right. And I had to put it down here. Arcona Minor. Yeah, he was
and I can never figure out how to say what his species was. I think I said it different every single time it came out.
But this is one where maybe we should start doing this. Read it with like the essential species or the essential aliens guide, which we have, or like read it with your phone so you could like check out these different species and things. But yeah, pretty awesome book. I think if you can, absolutely check it out.
But I think before we move on, because in our notes, I think it's really important to look at the character themes for specifically Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon, and then stay on that as we go through and just see how they develop. So even thinking about Obi-Wan, he starts very kind of impatient, impulsive. He just wants to become a Jedi. He's a good kid, and he's also strong, and he has all these good qualities too. But yeah, then you see him getting frustrated, which was interesting for Obi-Wan. This like fear being left behind. Yeah, and you get to see just a different side of him, which is really cool. And you see how he struggles a little bit with obedience and impatience. So he's a little impatient. But throughout in this book specifically, he starts to learn how to be a little bit more humble instead of just ambitious and going after what he wants. And he starts to learn to be a servant rather than just wanting status, and he's less concerned about his ego. Well, you still see it. He's a kid, but it's a slow process and this slow growth you start to see in this book. And that his worth is proven after failure, not before. And that's such a good lesson for all of us. And there's so many good quotes in all these books. Yeah, we're gonna have so many Star Wars wisdoms.
Yeah, there's gonna be EU Star Wars wisdoms, basically. Yes. Yeah, and to that point, so much character growth takes place because of failings. Yep. Which is
and very how true is that in real life.
Yeah, it's very unique.
And like you were talking about before, like this is what young kids need to be like reading, and like not necessarily just Star Wars. Like obviously we're biased to Star Wars, but books where you see, there's a process and there is failure. Adults need to read that too. We need to be reminded of that.
What I like about it is, okay, so it depends on how you watched the movies, right? I guess if you were reading these books as they came out, I guess you would be reading some before, or it might have been right after.
Phantom Menace came out in 99.
So maybe you would have come like right after you would have started reading these, right? So you would have seen Obi-Wan, but like if you started with the original trilogy, which I think you should, but like if you start there, then you have this mythic figure and guide and just like insane Jedi that's Obi-Wan. Yes. And then you go to the prequels and you do see his immaturity in Phantom Menace, and you see him kind of reluctantly take on Anakin. Right. And then you see him grow, and then you see the tragedy by the time you get hit Revenge of the Sith. But what I love about these books is that you don't see where it's like, oh, Obi-Wan is like amazing. Right. It's like, oh no, he's
best pupil at the temple.
Like he was rejected. Yep. And then he was kind of thrust into this adventure and this journey. And so it does make him feel more, it puts him in place in the universe as opposed to like, wow, the stars just lined up for him, right? Perfectly. And, I can't can't glean anything from that.
Right.
Instead, no,
I do not relate.
He feels like a real person. I feel like I'm talking about a real person.
Right.
When I talk about Obi-Wan.
But you should talk too about Qui-Gon.
Yeah, sure. With Qui-Gon, he's interesting because he's not. We know this about him, but you see it more. He's not like an orthodox Jedi. He's more guided by the living force, and that becomes a theme following him and Obi-Wan, where he very much is like teaching him how to be aware of the living force, as opposed to this orthodoxy to the Jedi,
right? To
the Jedi way. And you definitely see because of his failings, that's very vague right now.
Right.
But because of his failings with the former Padawan, he doesn't really want to take on another one. So it's not just like, no, I want to do my own thing. He's kind of grieving in a sense, like, man, this really terrible thing happened. And the book ends with a letter from Xanatos to Qui-Gon. Maybe a spoiler alert, but essentially it's like, hey, basically, I'll see you soon.
Yep.
And it's like, oh,
like,
shoot.
Who the heck is this guy?
And it's
what's happening?
It's like, what's going on?
Yeah, good thing we have the next book already.
I know we didn't. You only had to wait a couple months, but still, pretty. This would have been a one where you fill out that book card on the back for the book club and get them sent to you regularly. But you definitely see that he puts a strong emphasis on like somebody's character development, on empathy, things like that.
Right.
And you can see that he's not like emotionally reactive to choosing Obi-Wan, that he's actually being very deliberate in this kind of process, because obviously he didn't choose him in Coruscant, and then on their way to Bandamir, and they're on this planet and they're dealing with all this stuff. It's cool, but I think Qui-Gon, he's serving. You have the Jedi Council and kind of the way they function. He's serving as that counterpoint to it, where like, he's functioning in his own unique way.
But he's respected.
Yeah.
And it's not like necessarily rebellious either.
Yeah, and we could get into a whole debate on it. I know people call him like the gray Jedi and all this, and some people are like, there is no gray Jedi. But I think if you love Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan, but especially Qui-Gon, you should read these books.
Yes.
Absolutely. Like you hear Liam Neeson. You read it and you're like, this is crazy. Like I hear Qui-Gon. Like I can see him doing all this.
Yep.
Yeah, I think they're fantastic.
Yes.